Rocketman. So here we go. I'm going to have to hold Edmund's waving paw. I've just arrived at work. Job number 2 is a bar job in a community centre near where I live. Not that you needed to know that, because it's not what you tune in for. I mean, Lord knows why you do tune in, but some of you do. So I'm due to start work in about 6 minutes, so that gives me about 5 to talk about Rocketman. I saw this film last night and I absolutely bloody loved it. I remember first seeing the trailer for Rocketman, a teaser trailer, bizarrely, when I went to see Bohemian Rhapsody last year, and I think it's difficult to talk about one without talking about the other. But I'll focus on Rocketman first. For those of you who don't know, I mean, you must live in a cave because it's been quite heavily advertised, trailered, talked about. It is the story of how Reginald Dwight became Elton John. And, man, like, it's so stylish and sad and brilliant, and like, I wouldn't even call myself an Elton John fan particularly, but you watch this film and you're like, man alive, he's got some bangers. In the lead role of Elton John is the incredibly talented and very handsome Taron Egerton. You will know him from the Kingsman films where he plays Eggsy. He was Eddie the Eagle in Eddie the Eagle. And that film and this film are both directed by Dexter Fletcher. He is an actor turned director. Most famous to me for playing Babyface in Bugsy Malone, or depending on how old you are, you might remember him from Press Gang. He was in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, so he's been around a long time too, and he's turned his hand to directing with great skill. It is such, as I just said, it's such a stylish film. And I think one of the things I loved most about it was, unlike Bohemian Rhapsody, they didn't necessarily use Elton John's music in chronological order. So songs were used when it served the story, not when he would have been singing them, if that makes sense. I don't want to give too much away, but it is very much a musical. It is quite fantastical. The costumes are just outstanding, but then, you know, Elton John at his peak in that sort of era was very flamboyant, still is very flamboyant, but all the classic costumes, the Queen Elizabeth I, and yeah, assorted others, they all feature. Like, Taron Egerton is just phenomenal. He just inhabits the role so completely, and what's been much talked about is the fact that he does all the singing. Now, if you have children, or even if you don't, and you've seen the film Sing, the animated film Sing from a few years ago, he was the voice of Johnny the gorilla, who sang Elton John's I'm Still Standing in the film. And I think that could be wrong, but this is kind of where the seed of the idea for him to play Elton John came from. And the film's been made very much with Elton's blessing. I read an interview with Taron Egerton recently, and he said, I think it was on the BBC News app, and he said, Elton allowed me to make him ugly. And I think that's really on the nose, because he doesn't look great in chunks of this film. I mean, he doesn't physically look great, but it is very much warts and all. It's quite raw. Whereas Bohemian Rhapsody was criticised, for all it was phenomenally successful, and I absolutely loved it, it was criticised for perhaps being a little bit sanitised, and not quite going into the depths of I've just let go of Edmund's paw, can you hear him? Not going into the depths of what Freddie went through. And with this, they shy away from nothing, so it goes deeply into his, you know, just his homosexuality, his alcoholism, his drug addiction, his sex addiction. Like, nothing much is held back. So I think that's interesting and refreshing. They don't try and tell you that he was a clean-cut guy, but he was also a guy in a lot of pain, and the relationship he has with his family, apart from his nan, who's a stone cold legend, played by the wonderful Gemma Jones, his parents, Like, again, I don't want to give too much away, but not nice people. Just not nice. And really just sort of oblivious to the talent that their son had. Or just so very dismissive of it. I mean, love him or hate him, he's a very talented musician. It really covers his relationship with Bernie Taupin, who was played beautifully by the lovely Jamie Bell. Interestingly, the screenplay for this was written by Lee Hall, and Lee Hall is probably most famous for writing the screenplay to Billy Elliot, which was, of course, Jamie Bell's breakout role. So there's a lovely, not symmetry, that's not the word I mean, but there's a lovely sort of throwback there. Richard Madden of Game of Thrones and Bodyguard fame plays John Reed, who was Elton's manager and lover. I'm not normally one to comment on eye candy in films because I don't go and see films just because they've got attractive people in them, because I'm not a moron. But good God, Richard Madden's attractive, as is Jamie Bell and Taron Egerton, even with, you know, crap Elton John hair and big glasses and stupid costumes. Still very handsome. I nearly said I still totally would, and that would be really tacky. But yeah, everybody in it is at the top of their game. All performances are brilliant. Tate Donovan's in it as the sort of manager of the Troubadour. I really liked him. He's like as gay can be. And I really enjoyed him. The music's phenomenal. Taron, I can't call him Taron because he's not my mate. Taron Egerton sounds incredible. And it's just, as I said, raw, brutal, emotional, funny, heartbreaking. I can't say stylish again because I've already said it twice. But it's really, really fascinating. And yeah, it made me appreciate how talented he is, how talented Bernie Taupin is. You see that lovely partnership between them, like brothers. To be honest, in the film, the only people who aren't absolute arseholes are pretty much his nan and Bernie Taupin. Everyone else, bit of a so-and-so, and that's putting it politely. But yeah, it's about his addiction, it's about his recovery, it's about how he went from being a normal lad from London to being one of the most famous, successful, richest pop stars on the planet, and continues to be to this day. So it is so well worth a watch. I will definitely go and see it again if I can fit it in, because there's a lot to take in. And yeah, big shout out as well to the two actors. I didn't look up their names, I meant to, but there's two young lads who play Reg at a younger age. So one of about 8 or 10 at the very beginning, and then there's a sort of teens version before he morphs into Taron, who grows up to be grown-up Elton John. But yeah, great performances from the younger kids. And just all-round massive thumbs up. It's different to Bohemian Rhapsody. There are parallels. There will be comparisons made. I know Rami Malek won the Oscar for playing Freddie. I would love to see Taron Egerton win everything going, because this performance is just outstanding. He just inhabits the role so completely. So huge thumbs up from me. A massive well done to Dexter Fletcher. Great screenplay from Lee Hall. Cracking performances all round. Taron Egerton very much the standout, but he's the standout in a fantastic cast. I enjoyed it, can you tell? I need to go to work now, and I'm sitting in a really hot car, so I'm quite sweaty. So yeah, lovely. I'll leave you on that note, and thanks for watching, and tune in for my next, there goes Edmund, my next review from a car. Bye bye.